Welcome all back to Dominant Mets Nation. Welcome back on this very special day, the day where Juan Soto would don a Mets uniform for the first time. And oh boy, would it be special. In fact, let me just take a second right now, clap my hands because folks, we've been waiting for 2.5 months to see this man in action and to have that magical moment. And how fast did it take for that to happen? And you know what? Folks? That is just a taste, just the beginning. I want to say thank you to Yankee fans who now have come to the realization that they never wanted Juan Soto the whole time and that they are completely better off. So thank you, Yankee fans. It makes all the sense in the world, your rationalization. And also, I like to say, I know another cast off, another piece of garbage, that being Clay Holmes. Thank you for his services as well, because if you go back to the video where we acquired Clay Holmes, I was quite ecstatic, quite happy, and after seeing him pitch in his first game today, that actually makes me so much more confident in what type of season this man will have. Because you know what, boy oh boy, in his first game, that was pretty special. So we're gonna go over some very good highlights, some very important observations that I had. I'm pretty sure you had. So drop a comment. How did this game make you feel? Even if you're not a Mets fan, let me know. But let's get this video started off right. Smash that like button if you are a brand new subscriber or a returning subscriber. Now is a good time to subscribe because, again, I keep mentioning how I want to give back to our folks. So anything that I'm making on the channel, I want to actually start giving back to some folks. It's not much, but you know what? It's only fair to give back. So I said when we get to these milestones, 3,500, 4,000, 5,000, I have a list of things that I will raffle off, some being gift card, some being jerseys. So 5,000 mark, it is a jersey. So if you like to be in that type of running, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. So as those come along, I'll tell you the details on that. So the next random giveaway that we have is applicable to everyone. Applicable to everyone. It is actually a $50 gift card. A $50 gift card. And that is going to be on a random live stream between now and opening day. So stay tuned. If you're on the live stream, we will choose who is there at random. So it's just fun things to give away. So I just want to say thank you as always. And this is my way of saying thank you. All right, folks. So again, let's start with today. And I'm going to call it this. This is Dominant Mets Nation. The three guys who stood out to me, we will call them the three dominators of the game. And I'm going to rank them in how impressive their performance was. So the number one dominator in this game, I'm going to start off with Mr. Clay Holmes. I don't think it could be underrated how impressive this guy did. This guy was a reliever most of his career. I know he did start a couple games in the beginning of his career. Thank you for that information for some of our subscribers. But for the most part, this guy has been used to pitching one inning at the end of the game. He is used to only throwing two pitchers. He's predominantly been a sinker slider guy. Now in the last couple of weeks, he has been expanding his repertoire to a changeup, a four-seam, still improving the sinker, still improving the slider, but now he has about a 4 or 5 pitch mix. He also has a cutter. So it was quite impressive seeing him use all those pitches while at the same time still going to his bread and butter, and that being generating ground balls. I said one of the things that I loved about Clay Holmes and that I loved about his potential being a starter is that he has always in his career been a ground ball machine. I think on the broadcast, it was Ronnie or Keith mentioned that 65% of the balls put in play against Clay Holmes are on the ground. which is very good when you have a great infield defense, Lindor being Gold Glove caliber. So it is very good. And you saw that today, getting a lot of ground balls, getting guys looking silly at the plate. Clay Holmes touching as high as 98 miles per hour, mixing it in with a nasty a changeup. The changeup was sitting at around 82, 83. I think it got as high as 88. I mean, that changeup looked, I think, it looked better than it will in the future because of the lack of talent on the Houston Astros out there. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. But nonetheless, to do what Clay Holmes did, 3 perfect innings, not allowing a hit in his first time out there as a starter, I just have to give him a round of applause. A lot of times these pitchers don't go 3 innings this early on. I mean, this guy traditionally isn't a starting pitcher, yet hit that 3 inning mark, and he was perfect. He was hitting inside, outside. He was hitting the bottom of the strike zone, the top of the strike zone. I mean, I liked how he was getting guys to put the ball on the ground, and then he was also throwing that changeup, and it looked like it was touching the top part of the zone. I'm thinking to myself, all right, against more experienced hitters, maybe those guys aren't taking those pitches. They might be sitting on those pitches, but the location of those pitches wasn't that bad. It was like really high and tight. He was nicking the corners. So although they might have been hangers, they were in the right location. So that was probably the only thing that I could say, okay, he might have to locate the balls. He may have to make sure that he's always locating the changeup up in the zone, because if he gets out over the plate, that could be a recipe for disaster. But nonetheless, today, location was great. Pitchers had a lot of movement. In fact, Ronnie was saying one of his pitches, the changeup, resembled, I forgot which guy he was saying, but it was just so nasty, according to Ronnie, that he had to point it out. So again, overall, number one dominator today, I have to say, Clay Holmes. I was the most impressed with him, but very, very, very close behind. I have to go with dominator number two. And folks, this is an easy one. Mr. Juan Soto. I mean, they said that this ballpark, Cloverfield in Port St. Lucie, there was a different feeling today. Everybody got in their seats early. It was packed. Not usually packed in the first game spring training, but it was packed because everybody wanted to see Mr. Juan Soto in uniform for the very first time. And you know what? I'm pretty sure a lot of people in baseball were looking at this first at bat. Yankee fans, I'm pretty sure, all across the league, Braves fans, Phillies fans, everybody probably, maybe in the National League East, had more of an interest because you are going to see this man for quite a long time, and it did not take long. It did not take long. It was Gary Cohen on the call. First 2 pitches, Juan Soto showed his stellar eye, taking it 2-0. Very next pitch, Juan Soto took a very mighty cut, kind of nodded at the pitcher like, all right, you know what? I see it. Not a bad pitch. Next pitch, low and outside, or, maybe not too low, but it was towards the end of the plate, and Juan Soto deposited it in left center field. That ball took off. It was carrying, and, maybe at very first, Gary didn't think it was out, probably thought it was more on the warning track, but that ball kept on carrying, and first home run, first at bat, Mr. Juan Soto. I mean, you know what? You couldn't write it any better. You certainly couldn't write it any better. And, that really started us off in a tremendous way. And I think, folks, that is going to happen quite often. Juan Soto ended the day, 1 hit, 1 huge hit, 2 RBIs, and I like how he also set the tone. I really like how he set the tone, and it's just really kind of magical. And I was kind of being sarcastic in the beginning of the cast when I said Yankee fans were glad, and I know that's how Yankee fans are acting, but deep down inside, it's gotta hurt. It's gotta be painful because Juan Soto, as proclaimed by many of the Mets batters, is one of the most elite hitters in all of baseball. And the thing, if you want to compare him to Aaron Judge, and I did a comparison, a Mets comparison to Yankees comparison. I compared everybody across the field. And when I got to right field, it was tough because you have Aaron Judge against Juan Soto. But I called that a tie, and I called it, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that's a Juan Soto win for a couple of reasons. First of all, Aaron Judge is 33. You got to figure that the guy's going to go down. And then Juan Soto is juxtaposed that is 26. Gary Cohen mentioned it on the cast. He had 41 home runs last year, but the guy is still in an upward trajectory. Would it surprise you if, you know what, he gets better? No, it wouldn't. The guy's got all the talent in the world. Plus, he is a guy who plays every day. Aaron Judge is a guy who does not play every day. Most recently, he's been a little better, but I say the biggest difference between Juan Soto and Aaron Judge is when it comes down to crunch time, playoff time, there is one guy who is Mr. Clutch, and that is Juan Soto. This guy does not shrink under the moment. You think people would have butterflies in their first at bat, be a little over anxious. No, Mr. Juan Soto locked it in, dialed it up, and that's why this guy is super, super successful in the big game and in the playoffs. I loved it today, and we are going to see that many times over. All right, folks. Now let's get to the Dominator number 3. And this guy, I think his first at bat really kind of shows you a difference in him today and in the future. And I'm going to say the Dominator number 3, and it kind of dips off after Soto and Holmes, right? It really does. But if I had to pick a third guy, I would go with Mr. Pete Alonzo. And I'm going to tell you why. So in his first at bat, Pete Alonzo took a couple pitches, and then he ended up taking a strike 3 call. With the new rules in spring training, allow you to have 2 challenges. You're allowed to challenge a couple pitches, and Pete Alonzo used that challenge. And one of the pitches that he took, it ended up being a ball. So it went from a strikeout to him advancing in the count. He ended up taking a couple more close pitches, and he ended up walking. I thought it was a very good, tough at bat. In a bat, maybe last year, he doesn't stay in. He might get a little over anxious, but he just shows that he's trying to be a bit more patient, a bit more disciplined. In his second at bat, he had a very similar approach, and he ended the day with 2 walks. And I don't mind that. I do not mind that. Mr. Alonzo protecting Juan Soto, I want him to be patient. I want him to be disciplined. He is a guy who will run into home runs. And if he uses the whole field, it will be a special year. And it's not a bad thing. Pass the baton. This team has talent. You see today how they're going to put up runs. They won 6-2. They moved the line. In the regular season. You're going to have much more depth than you did today. Guys like Nimmo will be in the lineup. Mark Vientos will be in the lineup. So you will have much more depth. Now, on the opposite side, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil today, and if you look at Jeff McNeil's performance today, you may be wondering, why do I think there's going to be pressure? Because on Jeff's first 2 at-bats, he hit the ball pretty solid. In fact, he got robbed 2 times. He should have had a single, and he should have had a double. But here's the deal with Jeff. Right now, Jeff, if he hits the ball as hard as he can, it seems like, at this time in his career, he's got warning track power. And if they shade Jeff the right way, it just seems like all of these balls that Jeff McNeil squares up always seem to find the glove, right? Then, Jeff squares up. I've seen this happen over and over. He squares up a couple balls in a row. He gets frustrated, and his approach gets all haywire. So as long as Jeff McNeil can stay mentally, I'll just say this, mentally fit. Today he was fine. Today he was all smiles. But I'm telling you, it's not going to be like that during the regular season when he has an Angel Acuna breathing down his back, Ronnie Mauricio. So as long as he can stay mentally fit, he will be okay. I just haven't seen it in a couple years. So, today looked good, but you know what? I need to see him do that throughout the remainder of the year. And then also, too, I'm going to say, too, like Jeff McNeil, I see him as a guy who's going to be losing his job, just like he did last year. But, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I think Carlos Mendoza will go with him as a starter, but I think he will be a guy who will lose his job. Another guy that we saw today, and another interesting guy, was Mr. Brett Baty. And Brett Baty went 1 for 2. One of his hits was a ball he stayed in a little longer on the bat, and he kind of dribbled it down the third base line, and it ended up being an infield hit. Nothing special, nothing spectacular from Brett Baty. He's a guy that the Mets have him playing all over. Second base, shortstop, third base. But it's going to be super important for Brett Baty to really turn heads in spring training and to stand out. He's not going to have many more chances. He's got to raise his worth, his value. He's been looking a little more smoother around the box, or around third base, around second base. He's been looking a little smoother with the glove, but we really want to see a great spring training from Brett Baty. I'm going to be looking at him. I'm also going to be looking at Francisco Alvarez. Francisco Alvarez, if he's going to be batting in the top 5, top 6 this spring training, he's going to have a lot of opportunities to drive the ball, and I want to see him drive the ball. I don't mind if he's hitting line drives at people, because as long as he's hitting it hard, I know that once this guy gets his swing going, he's got the type of power and all fields where, there's no way you can align a defense to stop him. But I need to start seeing him make solid, consistent contact. That's what I'm going to be looking for from him as well. But all in all, you cannot not feel happy as a Met fan today. If going back to the pitching, you had Danny Young come in to relieve Clay Holmes. He had a couple of nice batters where he looked good against. According to Ronnie, it seemed like Young is incorporating a four-seam fastball. He hits around 91, 92 at most on the gun. He's not a flamethrower, but he's another lefty. So, regardless, even though Danny Young doesn't blow you away, he should have a job if he hits spots and has control. Danny Young is a guy who needs to control the strike zone. He certainly does. There was one hitter, I forgot what his name was, but he smoked a double of Danny Young, and that allowed him to give up one of the runs. But Danny Young has to continue to control the strike zone. That is the key for Danny Young. Today, all in all, the Mets look very decent. Again, look very decent against an Astros team who really brought nobody to the park. Ben Gamel, former Met, that was probably one of the best players. He batted number 4. And also, not to mention Cooper Hummel. He looked pretty decent as well. But, there was really no star power on the Astros today. They didn't have Christian Walker. They didn't have Alvarez. They didn't have a lot of their star players. Altuve. So, I got to see how the Mets really kind of approach game after game after game. But their approach today was perfect. Their attitude was perfect. They interviewed Lindor, and Lindor, I was a little surprised that he was pooped, but it seemed like these guys, when you see Lindor and he gives you those real reactions, you kind of notice and you kind of remember that these guys are human beings. Just 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, a lot of these guys were sitting on their couches. Now, or maybe they were working out, but the thing, they weren't in spring training. And now they have to ramp it up quite quickly and start spring training. These days, MLB opening day is a lot sooner than it was 10 years ago. In 15 years ago, 2010, you had an opening day April 3rd, 4th, 5th. Now, opening day for the New York Mets is March 27th. So almost a week and a half before, we used to play about 10 years ago. So the Mets, a lot of teams have to get ready a lot quicker. And it was just a sight to see that the Mets just got off to this great start. So what we will be looking for, obviously, is we're going to be looking for how the rotation look. Clay Holmes, first test, great. But how do the other pitchers look? Is Sean Manaea, is he going to continue to look dominant? Other pitchers, David Peterson, how is he going to look? Those are my biggest things. I want to see the pitching. The pitching has to be there. I think we're going to be fine with the hitting. I think the hitting, we're going to hit enough. It's just going to be about pitching, and then at the end of the offseason or towards the middle of the offseason, based on how we look, is a guy like David Stearns, is he going to go out to get more help to replace Montas, who is obviously going to miss some significant time? So again, going forward, I want to see the pitchers. I want to see how, the youngsters kind of develop and how they shine this spring training. Really, Acuna, Beatty, who takes this advantage of this opportunity? That's another key to this spring training. But all in all, like I said, great first start, great spring training game. I love what I see. And I love, the talent that we acquired from the Yankees, the ones that the Yankee fans were so gracious and so appreciative that the Mets were able to take those guys off their hands. Yeah, right. And I always say this. It's funny, and I said this on a show last week. Michael K. And honestly, he always seemed to be like, oh, yeah, you guys call me Yankee boy. I mean, if you hear his talk show right now, and he's a singular guy, he doesn't have Peter, he doesn't have Don, so he doesn't have that kind of other side. He doesn't have a Mets argument. Now it's like he's talking like he's on the Yankees. He's like, oh, well, our path to the World Series is going to be easier, and we have the better lineup. We have the better pitching. I'm like, damn, I know he works for the Yankees, but I thought he would be a little more impartial. So when you hear him talk, he's like the Yankee fan talking. And the Yankee fan is extremely, despite what they say, it hurts to see Juan Soto do what he did. And today was only the beginning to how special this guy could be. 26 years old, folks. 26-year-old superstar. And if other superstars see Juan successful, Juan Soto being successful in Queens, how is that going to make them feel? They're going to want to come to Queens as well. And if Juan Soto, increases revenue, if Juan Soto brings a World Series, I mean, that is going to be something really special. And a guy like Juan Soto, who takes a lot of pride in his ability and how he impacts others, I mean, I think that is an external reason, a very important reason why he came to the New York Mets. Besides money, I know Yankee fans, oh, it's all about the money. The Mets gave $5 million more. I mean, folks, come on. All the offers were close. Let's be real here. There were other external factors. There were other perks. There were other advantages. Steve Cohen being one of them, folks. If you had George 15 years ago, that would have been, I think you would have got him. But the fact that you had Hal Steinbrenner and, he never had that relationship with Soto, and then you had basically Cohen doing everything under the sun to secure this contract, and then Soto seeing how Steve Cohen tries to secure talent. What he did last year with Yamamoto, what he did this year with Alonzo, kind of confirmed the reasoning, his thought process. I mean, Steve Cohen is such a special, unique owner, and I think that's going to make the difference in other free agents in the future. Mostly, specifically, we have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's a conversation for another day. We spoke about Rafael Devers. I heard the two sides to that conversation. I appreciate all of the feedback with that. I mean, our last conversation, would you rather have Rafael Devers or Vladimir Guerrero? I mean, talent-wise, it seems easier. Vladimir Guerrero, and then you hear Devers as being a little bit of a problem. But then the caveat is, Vladimir Guerrero maybe commands a contract of 10 years, close to $500 million, whereas you can get Devers for 9 years and $280 million. So, that money difference might sway some folks to Devers. And then Devers, you can't take the fact away that he is a talented guy as well. All right, folks, a lot of interesting things to come. Very Very interesting topics. We're going to cover it all here. Continue to like, continue to subscribe. Like I said, we're going to have a live stream between now, opening day, and I'm going to have these random giveaways. Why am I doing it? I want to say thank you. I want to give back. I want to reward the people who gave this channel a chance and who are supporting this channel, watching the videos, liking, comment. Thank you. And even the people who don't agree with everything I say. I mean, you got to remember, you're not going to agree with every single YouTuber. That would be odd if you agree with everything. But, you have to enjoy the content. You have to like the content creator. And then if that's the case, I appreciate you. I appreciate each and every one of you. And this is why I want to continue to do these things. And again, for the members, the paying members, I have those special giveaways that I've spoken about in the past, and we will still be doing those as well. So don't think we are not doing that. Again, thank you again for growing with us. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I will speak to you soon. Let's go Mets. Already spring training 1-0.